It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Morning to everyone out there. Okay, so welcome to the program. We've got a special guest on the phone. We've got Mr. Charles Fuqua is with us, and he is the chairman of the Independence County Republican Committee. Charles, welcome, sir.
I'm glad to be here today.
Absolutely. Now, your connection's just a little rough, so just make sure you get into a place in your house, and maybe we can. You want to speak clearly into the microphone or your phone as well. So, can you hear me? Okay, Charles.
I hear you just fine. Do you hear me any better now?
Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, so I wanted to have you on. Tell us about the Trump Day dinner. You know, this is kind of interesting. You hear about Reagan Day dinners and Lincoln Day dinners. Tell us about the Trump Day dinner.
Well, we wanted to celebrate the fact that we had a president that loved America. After so long having a president that just apologizes for America and criticizes America, we're just really happy to have one that loves America and loves us. So we called our dinner the Trump Day dinner. And we are having a very special guest at that dinner. And I want to tell you how this all evolved. A candidate for governor, Jan Morgan, her campaign contacted me and asked if she could speak at one of our committee meetings. And our regular day for our committee meeting is the first Tuesday of the month, which is the 6th of March is our regular committee meeting. So I invited her. And we were just going to have her speak at the committee meeting. But when I announced to the committee that we were going to do that, people said, hey, if she's coming, we ought to make this a big deal. And it has become a big deal. We're going to have a dinner. It's going to be at the fairgrounds. And my hope was to maybe get 60 people there. And we've already sold 75 tickets, and there's a whole lot outstanding. So I imagine we'll probably sell a whole lot more than that. There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm about her coming to our county.
Yeah. I mean, Charles, this is a pattern. I mean, that I have noticed kind of everywhere she goes, there is big turnouts. I mean, when I was up here, she was just up here at just a Tea Party event speaking, and they had a packed house. And I've been going to events like this for a long time, and I've never seen so many people show up, new faces and everything. So she is generating a lot of interest. So it's not surprising. As you said, you wanted 50 people to show up. You've already sold 70 tickets to this thing. Now, it is March the 6th. Is that correct?
It is. And I want to say something about it. To get in, you've got to have advance tickets because this is a dinner, and we've got to know how many dinners to have there. So if people want to come, by the way, it's going to be in a very large building at our fairground. We can probably hold 400 people. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think there's any way we'll have that many. But anybody that wants to come, we can accommodate them, but they must have advance tickets. They can contact me at 870-612-3570. And I'm going to give that again. It's 870-612-3570.
Okay,
They
yeah.
can call me, and I can get tickets to them. They're $20 a ticket, and for children under 12, it's half price, $10 a ticket.
Nice. Well, I'm excited for you guys. It's going to be a good time, and I'm glad we could talk about it. I thought it was interesting, a Trump Day dinner. And, of course, keynote speaker Jan Morgan. Now, Charles, let me ask you this. And, yeah, I feel free. I know this may be kind of a difficult question because you are, a chairman, Independence County Republican chairman. But we have documented evidence that when, for example, Jan Morgan was supposed to go speak at the Mississippi County Republican Lincoln Reagan Day dinner, there was an email sent from one of the governor's employees, Douglas Smith, and he was putting pressure on that committee to disinvite Jan and not allow her to speak, which this happened in a lot of places, which eventually the county chairman got together and they passed a resolution saying we're independent organizations, and we're going to have whoever we want to have speak because it's healthy for the Republican Party to promote, difference, a lot of different ideas, and debate is a good thing. So, Charles, my question is, have you gotten any pushback? Because it sounds to me like if this went from 50 to 70 and now it's even more, I just have a feeling that maybe some people have noticed, if you know what I mean.
Okay, well, first of all, let me say this. I've written a book, and just the name of the book is God's Law, the Only Political Solution, and I go all over the state speaking at Tea Party meetings and at Republican committee meetings and present what's the contents of my book or just an overview of it. So I have gotten to know people all over the state and collected emails, and in Independence County, I have an email list of about 300 people I send emails to, and across the state, an additional about 500 that I send emails to. So when we decided to do this, I sent emails out to both those email lists telling them about the event. And not very long after I did that, I got a text message from Doug Smith, and he asked, "Are you guys having some kind of an event in Independence County?" Obviously, somebody passed that email on to him. I don't know. He may actually be on my email list. But anyway, that was what he asked. And I sent him a text back, and I said, "Well, yes, we are having a Trump Day dinner at the fairgrounds, and our keynote speaker is going to be Jan Morgan." And pretty soon I got another text message back from him, and he said, "Has our sitting governor been invited?" And so I sent a text back to him, and I said, "Well, actually, we didn't invite Jan Morgan. She asked if she could speak at the committee meeting, and we said yes. And then this thing just kind of exploded on us. And I think I did tell him that we have invited the governor to our county, and he's never shown up. So not that he hasn't been in the county, because
Right.
he has.
Right.
But he's just never been at anything that the Republican committee invited him to.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you're telling me that Doug Smith reached out to you as soon as he found out this event was taking place. Wow. Well, I mean, you got to give him a good score for persistence. I mean, this guy is, he is on the taxpayer payroll. He works for the governor's office. And so it'd be interesting that our taxpayer dollars are going to, I don't know, going to him. And I guess he's focused on getting Asa reelected. That's what it seems like to me.
I can't answer that.
Oh, well, I understand you can't, but that's I'm just saying that's what it seems like to me. So, well, that's a fascinating. So, talk a little bit about, just real quick. We're talking with Charles Fuqua, the chairman of the Independence County Republicans. How's the Republican Party doing in the state? How do you see it? Is it divided?
Oh, I think it's extremely divided. And I think the reason it's divided is many Republicans do not like Obamacare. They're opposed to it because Republicans, as a general rule, are opposed to socialism. And Obamacare is socialism. And since the Republican leadership in the state of Arkansas has been pushing our little special version of Obamacare, it's divided the party.
And so you think that's the divide? Yeah. So why do some Republicans seem? I'm glad you brought up socialism. I asked this question a bunch last week. Why do some Republicans fight tooth and nail to keep a socialist program from a socialist president?
Well, here's what I think's going on, and I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm just saying what I think I see happening. In the state of Arkansas, for many years, we were told that the Republican Party was for the rich and the Democratic Party was for the working guy. But in reality, what we had was the Democrat Party, since it was the party in power, was owned by the lobbyists, and they did whatever the lobbyists wanted them to do. And then the lobbyists fought their election campaigns, and they just kept getting elected over and over again. Well, we had hoped that when we put Republicans in power that things would change, but it's looking more and more like that hasn't changed. And this is just what I see. I think I have seen the largest transfer of wealth in Arkansas history from taxpayers to a particular special interest group, and that would be the health insurance companies and the hospitals. And whatever you want to call it, Obamacare, how many names has it had? ACA, the private option, Arkansas Works. Am I missing some of them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some in the future when people figure out whatever it's called now is still Obamacare. I'm sure they'll rename it again.
Yeah, but anyway, whatever you want to call it, okay? It is making the hospitals and the insurance companies very rich, and then in turn, they can contribute to the election campaigns of the politicians that support that system. So what we've got is the same old thing we had with the Democrats in charge. The Republicans are supporting the people that will contribute to their campaign in a big way. And that's what I was in the Arkansas legislature, and at the time I was in the House of Representatives, there were only 13 Republicans. Now, back in those days, we stood for something. We didn't have any power, but we did everything we could to try and be real conservative. Now it seems like what we stand for is getting enough lobbyists to support us to get reelected.
Wow,
So.
That's really I appreciate that perspective. You being in the state house, you said 13 of you out of 100, and yeah, that's exactly right. I mentioned earlier 138 years of Democrat control, and so that is kind of what it was. There was, every now and then I guess you'd have a Democrat primary, but for the most part, everybody stayed in office, and you just did what the Marble Palace monolith wanted you to do, big business or whatever, and everything was fine. And so, but then Obama gets elected, people start realizing that, hey, the Democrat Party is actually advocating not only just for social policies that are terrible like abortion, but they're now so far to the left, they believe we should all be forced to give up all of our money, put it into one big pot, and divide it up equally. That's the movement. It's straight up socialism. And so people started making different decisions. I think they started voting on issues, and they realized that the issues that they were important to them were important to the Republican Party because of the Republican Party platform. And yet we haven't had the reform that people have been asking for. And you're saying instead they've just gone down there and they're doing what the lobbyists want, and and it's the same old, same old. That's essentially what you're saying. And it's very simple, but I've never thought about it in specifically those terms.
I want to say one other thing, and this is I think I'm speaking for our committee, and at least the people that are outspoken and tell me what they think. Another thing that our committee is very upset about is we really liked having term limits on our legislators. We thought that was a good idea. Well, when the Republicans took over the legislature, they put a ballot issue on for the people to vote on that they called ethics reform. And the ethics reform was to do away with the term limits the people had established.
Yes.
So they basically snookered us, because I don't know if you know this, but if something goes on the ballot title has to be approved by the Attorney General. And the Attorney General has been very diligent about rejecting misleading ballot titles. However, if the ballot title and the initiative comes from the legislature, the Attorney General does not have the authority to change that ballot title because it's assumed that the legislature wouldn't put a misleading ballot
Right.
on.
Yeah, because somehow when you become a legislator, you become an angel. You become infallible.
Yeah.
You can't do anything wrong. And, of course, we have John Woods, Mike and Neal, Jake Files, Michael Lamoureux, and the lot to prove that to be true. So, Charles.
Well, I want to give a word of caution here. If you're going to the polls and there's something that we're voting on, especially if it changes the Arkansas Constitution, be very skeptical of voting for it, because the legislature is prone to give us misleading ballot titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was that was a whole John Woods thing, by the way. John Woods was the one responsible for that particular issue that changed and extended term limits and gave them the ability to raise their salaries. And it was you talk about misleading. It wasn't misleading. It was the ballot title versus what was in the text. It was meant to trick the voters. It was in my opinion, it should have been criminal. What John Woods and the legislature did to the people, putting that language, should have been a criminal act, in my opinion.
I don't believe, had the Attorney General scrutinized that, it could have ever passed Attorney General scrutiny. That ballot.
Yeah, no question. No question. Yeah. Well, Charles Fuqua, I appreciate you coming on the program. Go ahead one more time. Trump Day dinner coming up. What's the date, and where can people get tickets?
It is March 6th. It will be at the Independence County Fairgrounds. You can get tickets from me at 870-612-3570. And the tickets are $20 each, $10 for children under 12. And we'd love to have a big crowd there.
All righty. We appreciate it, sir. Best of luck to you, Charles. And it's always great to have you on the program.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
All righty, folks. Good morning to you. We got to take a break. This is Conduit News Radio. Back in just a moment.